Today's an exciting day. I get to do a podcast with my wife. For those who don't know her,
Oh, no.
don't worry. For those who don't know her, she's been in my ear for over 20 years about many of these things. And it took me to the edge with a fight with cancer to really believe and understand the importance of these. And so I thought, why not bring her into this circle and let her have some conversation and talk about really today our conversation is going to be about how as a family we've looked at toxicity in the world in terms of consumable products and how we've done our best to limit those, both where we are geographically, how we live in terms of urban versus rural, and also financially, because all of these have a financial burden and constraint. And yeah. And so we're going to talk about a little about, and again, we're not experts in this. This is about what we've seen and how we've found and look at things. And we thought it'd be a great idea just to kind of share some of that with you all and maybe help shed some light on some of this for you all.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to welcome my wife, Deidre.
Deidre Moffett.
There you are.
I exist.
So today, one of the first topics we're going to talk about is personal hygiene and those products. And I think we talked about earlier, at the root of that really came out of you working in, with Aveda and what we knew about Aveda, and even you as an educator of Aveda and understanding what's being put into products and their care for that. Yeah. And so I think that really, to some degree, started to set a stage for us in the beginning.
Yes, very much so.
You want to talk about Aveda a little bit?
Yeah. I've been a hairstylist in the hair industry since I was 19. And
so you don't want to say how many years that's been?
25 years this year, actually, yeah. Although, no longer being in the salon, but for the majority of my career, I was in Aveda salons. And they, especially in the beginning, were very much so about low toxicity, low chemicals in their products, even how they made their products with the wind energy. And they're in Minneapolis. They're on, what would you call it, Rob? Their area that they're in.
Headquarters?
Their headquarters. But what it's on, it's like a, I can't think of the words. Yeah. Anyways, but just how they make their product. They are very true to their brand in all facets. But, so yeah, just working with them really influenced me and my lifestyle, especially in my 20s. I was very much into exercise. I'd take that spin class for an hour, and then I would do personal training for an hour afterwards. So it really had an impact on me in my 20s. And us getting married, I think that had a lot to do with it too.
Oh, who's that?
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And so I just really, it was a whole lifestyle shift, I think, around that time. And Aveda was really at the forefront of that.
So understanding that we, like I said, you were holding the flag up many, many years ago. And
I've been called a hippie many times,
but I ignored it for a long time. And verbally. I mean, I wasn't hiding it. I was vocal about it too. But over the years, I feel like your voice has gotten louder. Not because it's loud.
Figuratively?
Literally,
yeah.
But it got louder. And I started paying more attention and realizing the value of what you were trying to establish in our household. And I think it even got more important to me and even louder after we had Drew over 7 years ago, and realizing that I want to make sure what my son is consuming, both as nutrition to even content, go on and on and on,
Yep.
is paying attention to that. What does it look like? What does it mean? Because I think I can look back at my history and growing up, and in terms of just talk nutrition, or we can talk about personal hygiene because that's where we're at. There was no discussion about any of it. It was just consume and buy this product. And A, was only, there's probably a few available probably at that time, and then B, it was a price point, and then the third one was just being uneducated about it and just not knowing. And I think that's the part too, that knowing is both tremendously important, but it also, there's a fear to it that comes with it, and realizing what's going on and how they're creating these products. And I think for me, I went through that period when I got diagnosed. I felt the world was attacking me, and that all these things were attacking my body, which was, hard for me to fight because there's so much. And so I think, again, educating ourselves is a good thing, but also it has its challenges too. So let's talk about some personal hygiene products that we really pay attention to. Maybe the one is toothpaste, and really looking at that. So you want to discuss how you got to where you are with your toothpaste,
With my toothpaste
selections?
I know, it goes so far back. I don't know. That's another product, but the low fluoride or no fluoride, just things that I've read and heard over the years, how, especially in our water, there's fluoride in our water,
Right.
and so we are just constantly attacked from every angle about with different chemicals, and some of those chemicals are trying to combat things that could harm us, but at the same time, in high levels and high doses of them, they can be very toxic to our bodies.
So let's talk about fluoride,
Fluoride,
because typically people look at fluoride as a positive thing.
it's a good thing.
Like, we need to buy this because it has fluoride in it, versus the opposite.
Yes.
And even to that point where it's such a word that shows up in advertising and all
As
over
a positive thing.
as a positive, and it's just like, and people don't even realize what it is, and they just hear the word, so
Yeah.
they assume it's good.
Yes.
So what about fluoride?
What did you hear recently? But it was dementia, so it was linked to dementia.
I think it was dementia, and also lower IQ. They did studies in areas across the United States this was with water with high fluoride.
Yeah.
That those areas typically had a lower IQ.
Interesting. That I didn't know.
I don't know to what degree. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't tremendous, but there was an impact. And so those two, again, especially as we age, all these components are important to us. We don't want to add things to our bodies that make it harder to age. We need to do things
Or
that
increase aging. Yeah.
increase aging faster, more intensely. So it's the opposite of that. We need to do things to help lower that impact and actually create a better system for our body to age. And I learned many years ago that what we do in our 40s means so much to our 60s. And so I've had that in my back of my mind for a long time. I wasn't always paying attention to it. I'm paying a lot more attention to it today in my late 40s, which I'm glad that at least it showed up sometime.
At all.
Right. And so I'm grateful for that. So yeah, fluoride. And then you and I have a little bit difference in terms of product names or brands. And then, you like the charcoal toothpaste. Why is that?
More just for whitening, really.
Yeah.
Its ability for whitening, and charcoal draws in things. So charcoal is good to take orally, anyways, because it helps take the heavy metals.
Heavy metals, yeah.
Yeah, it draws in heavy metals. So yeah, it's a product that draws out things, and then you get rid of it through your saliva. But I think it's mainly it's a natural way to whiten your teeth. I mean, you're not going to have the day glow white you would get maybe from other products, but it's more of a natural whitening look, yeah. But I mean, there's charcoal. You can use charcoal in your armpits. Yeah. To help get rid of, to detox your armpits. So it's just a great detoxifying agent.
While we're in the armpit world,
Welcome to the pit.
deodorant, and that's another one. Rob was ignorant, going down a path for his whole
With the
life.
aluminum, is that yeah?
And so, using the typical products, and then realizing that the toxicity of that,
Especially with your lymph nodes and
some
your
of my lymph
taste.
nodes, and who knows, again, there's no way to know, but there's also a part of me that believes that some of these things might have had a factor into my diagnosis, and that both in toxicity of what we consume and use to stress our daily lives and what we're environment.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because it's not one facet to our health and wellness. It's all these various components. It's a spoke on spokes on a wheel, and you really need to look at all those spokes. And I don't feel like you have to, to be honest with you, go full bore in all these spokes. But if you do adjust them a little bit, you start to see the benefits.
Yes.
And then you can adjust them more. And again, we all have different wheels, and they're built differently. But again, I think all these things really are important. And just, the fact of putting aluminum in our armpits, it just sounds odd. It sounds foreign.
Yeah, when you say it out loud, huh?
Like, why are we doing that?
Do you remember that product line I repped for MOP, the Modern Organic Products? Everything's made with fruit and vegetables. When I was going through the training for that, one thing that they said that stuck with me was stress plus diet equals disease.
Yeah.
Or it can lead to disease.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's, nutrient deficiencies with high stress equals disease or illness.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something I've always stuck in my brain.
And then there's
go back to,
we talked about Aveda. So, we typically as a household, not by choice or just by choice, but it's just kind of a brand. We use Aveda. And then there's soap in general. And you're sourcing soap from a different source. And where is that?
The refill store, excuse me, from I say it, Eco now. I source it from them. They use different product lines, but they are very careful about what they choose to carry in their store, because they do know that it washes down through the drain and it becomes part of our ocean. So they want to be good stewards of the environment. And so what we use on our body is essentially going to go into the environment through our water. So it's a low suds,
right? Which
low sulfates. Yeah, I know you were fighting the low suds for a minute. Yeah, it's not sudsing up, but it's not supposed to suds up. That's chemicals essentially that creates the lather. So we want a low foaming, low sudsing products. But
I'm trying to think, is there any other personal hygiene products that we pay attention to? I just think in general we look at it pretty carefully. I definitely pay attention now to a lot more than what's in the different products, and and then do a little bit of research. It doesn't take much, and then and then new products come on the landscape all the time, and then understanding, is their story real?
Yes.
And sometimes that's really hard to discern, but really looking into that a little bit more.
Rather than just being on the bandwagon.
Yeah, there's not too much right now in terms of personal hygiene that I felt like something showed up that was, what's this? It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
But I think, especially for me, the three big are the deodorant, the toothpaste, and the soap.
And there's always an adjustment period when you go from using something that's high toxicity to low toxicity. Like, especially deodorant, there's no antiperspirant factor in a natural deodorant. I mean, they do put some baking soda in sometimes, but or arrowroot powder. But like, I'm a sweaty girl, and so like having that. I mean, it really is. It's something that you have to consider. That this being part of this lifestyle, there are going to make some adjustments to how you.
Yeah.
There's
it's
value. Not going to be the same.
No.
Yeah.
Because if it was the
Yeah.
same, I think more people would use it.
But that's the thing too. Like our bodies are meant to sweat. That's our detoxifying agency. So you're keeping your armpits from sweating is not a good thing. You need to have that sweat because that's your detox.
Yeah, I almost envision
Yeah.
it as like it's like a mortar that you're putting in your pores that's not allowing
clogging it up,
that's clogging them up, and then not allowing. And then
Yes.
those toxins have to go somewhere.
They have to go somewhere.
And so where they go, they can turn up in skin challenges. You go on and on and on.
Yeah. And your body will let you know.
Yeah.
You know, it might show up in somewhere else, like in your case, you know what I mean? It gets pushed out somewhere else, but your body definitely will speak to you and let you know when it has an imbalance somewhere. Yeah.
So back to the soap world, we also, as a household, pay attention to the soaps that we use to clean both our dishes, our clothes, and household. When we clean the bathrooms and the floors and things like that. And so you're still looking at that as, we're paying attention to low toxicity, and I think a lot of that stuff is still coming out of the refill store.
Yes.
Right. And for the most part, they all do the same.
What do you mean?
Well, they like it takes a bit of an adjustment.
Yes.
Even in those products. But I think it's important. Again, it's how do we clean things? It doesn't need to be bleach everywhere. There's times for those and a place for that, but it's not an everyday product.
Yes, yeah. And over time, I feel like I've become more sensitive when I do smell bleach. It's very potent. You just kind of, again, that adjustment. I've adjusted to things that don't have fragrance in them. You know, like the laundry. We use fragrance-free laundry. And so if I get something from consignment or something that's been washed in
even
a chemical, it's very, if you feel it,
even in public.
Feel it, even in public.
Even in public, you can tell. It's like, whoa.
Well, yeah. You become very sensitive to it.
It hits you like a brick wall sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially like the dryer sheets. And,
yes.
I mean, that stuff's like, wow.
Yeah.
And so, just even that, how we're ingesting that through our nostrils, and what is that doing?
Yeah, or in our skin. You're wearing that. Our skin is our biggest organ.
And
so
that's the bigger point is we're wearing it. And again, you're right. Our skin is one of our biggest organs, and so those things. Again, it's not like tomorrow you're going to wake up and your arm's falling off, but over time, I'm sure it's doing something to us.
Absolutely. We're being attacked at many different levels. Yeah. And that's just one of them.
And it could be even, again, we're not experts in this, but it just, understanding the little bit we do is that if it weakens us a little bit in one spot, something else stronger comes in and is able to attack. And so, again, just even bringing those things in and having those around us can do some level of weakening, whether it's our immune systems or any other kind of systems in our body that allow something else stronger to come in and actually do some damage.
Or endocrine.
Right.
Yeah. Something.
I mean, it's pretty big. And, again, I'm grateful that we do pay attention to it. It can be challenging sometimes because it's not always the easy button, but it's meaningful. And it's meaningful for our family. And I think the other thing to stress about all this today, too, is that growing up, we weren't taught these things.
No.
It wasn't part of our household. It wasn't part of our culture. I mean, that's the biggest part. It wasn't part of our culture. It wasn't part of the era. And so we've had to learn these things over time and understand the value of it. But now you and I get to change that course. We get to teach our son the value of these things. And my hope is that he not only takes it and learns it and does it, but he learns more beyond us. Yeah. And keeps carrying that torch, whatever that torch looks like. And so I think that's important too, because again, it's great for us, but why not carry that, whatever that is further.
Agreed.
Well, let's talk about a couple other things. And I think one of the bigger ones that topic wise is food and how we source food and what that looks like. And, I always joked, again, we've adapted and evolved over years. You and I have been around each other for almost 23 years. And in that time, I can kind of play back the tape, and I can see the changes and and how we've evolved.
Okay.
Not how, but when we've evolved.
Okay.
And even specifically, even with you, I mean, you've evolved, and even you carrying this torch, your torch has changed because you've learned, you've educated yourself, more information's available to us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part. It's more information's available. Again, we have to discern that information, make sure that's correct. Because even though we all know that we really got to pay attention to what the source is. But, even saying that, I used to laugh because in the early days, you started going to multiple grocery stores.
Yes.
And it drove me nuts.
Yeah.
You'd go to Trader Joe's for this. You'd go to, Mother's Market for this.
Farmer's
Market for that.
It used to be Henry's, which is now Sprouts.
And
yeah.
Sprouts.
Yeah.
And there's probably one other one flying in there.
I'm sure.
And it used to drive me crazy. Like, why can't you just go to one place to eat here?
Once a week.
One
place.
Yeah, one place. And again, I understand now. An old dog can learn new tricks.
It's a win. It's a win.
And I understand it. But we've changed that even today. We still do multiple sourcing of where we go. But we're looking at it differently even today, I think, in that sense of paying attention. Let's just talk about meat right now. And we really pay attention to where that meat's coming from and making sure that, minimize the hormones and go on and on and on what's being put into meat. And I think that's important. So right now, typically you're sourcing meat in a couple of venues. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. One is from a farm up north, Greenville, I believe it is, like in the Sierras. They're all grass-fed and finished and yada yada. But they're at the farmer's market, so I buy them from the farmer's market as a pickup point, and they have boar, they have bison, and even that, kind of straying from the domesticated meats, because you learn about that industry and how those are raised, and so kind of veering more into the wild game.
Which is, again, the nutrients in a wild game versus your typical, beef is so much more vibrant in terms of vitamins and minerals and things that we eat as consuming that game.
And organ meats. Trying to get some more organ meats into our diet, whether it's through food or through capsules or whatever it is and whatnot.
And we're lucky being here because we have the farmers market somewhere every day of the week. And so if you're not able to get to where you wanted to go, where you normally go on Thursdays or whatever day, you're able to go to another one the following day. It doesn't mean that all the vendors are there. But it's nice that, again, we talked about geographic location, is that we have that opportunity here. It's not everywhere.
Yeah, it's true. And you being from Ohio, you would know that. But yeah, even talking about the water, going back to the water, our soil has changed, our water has changed, our air has changed. So the quality of the meat is going to change because of that, because that's what cows eat. And so things aren't quite as nutrient rich as they would like them to be. But we try to get the best that's available to us,
Yeah, and then we were talking even today about sourcing, ordering and being part of some sort of order service for, meat, and really understanding what that group does and how they finish the meat and where it's being raised and understand it. I think is something to look at. Again, there's a price point and we're paying attention to that, but it's important. And then, we're grateful that your aunt also raises certain couple things that we were able to consume and have. And so her pigs are coonies and then she's even done, cows.
Beef.
Beef. And so we have that opportunity. We also live in an area where chickens are allowed. And so a lot of, we know quite a few people with chickens.
We have someone raising meat birds now.
We have someone raising meat birds. And so it feels like there is this awakening around us, and more people are starting to pay attention to this.
Absolutely.
And again, we're grateful that we're in a place that we have access to that, and
Yeah.
that's not the case always. I think there's always access. Is just, again, it's a price point and affordability.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's challenging with all this is affordability. But I also look at fast food isn't cheap anymore.
True.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't get a cheap meal anymore.
Yes.
I mean, look at I always crack up because when we get Vietnamese and we get pho, and that's supposed to be street food and cheap food, and it's $14 for a bowl of soup.
I think for the three of us, and we have a 7-year-old, mind you, it was like $50-something.
Yeah, for Vietnamese, and that's supposed to be a reasonably cheap meal. And so there is no real cheap anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're going to spend that money, look at the options, and maybe it's $1 or something more, or it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing too, is we found that certain things, it's like, really, it's not that much more.
Yeah. Well, and just thinking long term too, health, how it affects you and your health. Eating out, the quality is not
we have
going
no
to be
idea.
there when we don't know what they're using for
even
oils and
But even that, we've paid attention to. Sometimes used to. I mean, when we did go out to dinner more, we paid attention a little bit. We typically knew someone or some person that knew the chef and understanding where they're sourcing food, and we've seen these chefs out at the farmers market, and I think that's important. And then paying attention to fish and where it comes from, and
the raw dairy, getting raw dairy, which is for somebody in California, it's allowed, but not others. Some other states are not allowed to sell it.
What's amazing to me about raw dairy is that how they talk about people that would consume raw dairy actually it minimizes the lactose intolerance, and that it basically there's no effect of it, and I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But back to the meat too is paying attention where it comes, and also there's people out there that are putting in the work and going fishing and hunting.
Yes, that was my thought.
So there's that opportunity too out there, and just because you're not a hunter or fisherman doesn't mean you might not be able to find someone that, because usually they want to share that with people.
Yeah.
There's some that they literally do it for their families if they have a large family. I know people that go out and that they're hunting for their family for the year.
Yeah.
But then there's others that do it and they really can't consume it all, and so they like to share it. And so there's that opportunity too out there.
There's a story behind it. It's a whole thing, and supporting these smaller farms, these smaller venues. I like that as well. It just feels a little bit more of a controlled environment, and I appreciate that too. I like to support the smaller local farms.
Yeah, and again, it takes time, but I do value also there's just the actual consuming of these products, these meats and things that we get at the farmers market. They ultimately taste better. There's just more flavor. I crack up about I can't eat bacon anywhere else but this house because the bacon we get is
unreal.
Yeah, it is. I mean, those are some fantastic pigs because
they're living well.
Yeah, and that bacon is just unreal. Even our turkey this year. Yeah, we sourced the turkey out of Wisconsin. Yeah, it's a weird place for turkeys, but anyway. Again, we're paying attention to where these, all these different varieties of food.
How they're raised, where they're raised.
Yeah, and I think also, to that point is that all of this is really limiting our opportunity to packaged food. And we know that how you talk about toxicity, and packaged food is the worst we can be consuming. In our entire, I'll call it food source. I feel like if I really just took a snapshot of it, I mean, I might say it's like 80% of our food is packaged.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out to a store,
Oh, I see what you're
you
saying.
see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And you think about that
The
store.
aisles, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, how
yeah.
much of that?
Yes, the store
It's
is
a, like,
packaged versus,
it might even be
yeah.
more
It might even be more.
because the only stuff that's not truly packaged
Mm-hmm.
is the meat department.
Or fruit and fruit and veg,
It's
and
fruit
fruit
and
and
vegetable.
veg,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it could be higher,
yeah.
but it's a
But
lot.
it's true. Yeah, if you really take a snapshot of it. Absolutely. And I think having, again, going back to our son, is having conversations with him, as we walk down these aisles, and something will catch his eye. And those are opportunities to have conversations of, that's a snack or that's a treat, and differentiating between a snack and a treat, because everything just that tastes good, I want to eat it all the time, and there's some things that you can have more often than others, and those are treats that are
Yeah.
less often. And so, I love having those conversations going up and down the aisles, because there's a lot. The grocery store gives you a lot to talk about.
It does.
Mm-hmm. And then going to other markets, Asian markets, and even those conversations that come up, and being able to introduce him to different foods. And
Yeah, he has no
everything's just,
problem of trying new things.
No,
And
he
so
doesn't.
it's more about limiting his opportunity on sugar and things like that. And that's another thing too is, we're again talking about how we've evolved and changed, and we were consuming things throughout the years on a quite a often repetitive base that were not good for us.
Yeah.
I mean, my simple one I can think back about I consumed a lot of this ranch dressing.
Ranch dressing. What was Rob without his ranch
Yeah,
dressing?
that was like the Midwest just seeping out my
It
pores.
is.
And
Yeah, you were a saucy guy. You liked a lot of sauces. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna eat that. What sauce
Can
can
I
I
put
have
with
with it? Yeah. What is? Yeah, you almost have a whole fridge in the garage. Just the door. The door is almost like
That's all hot sauce
Rob
now.
sauces.
Hot sauce now.
But yeah, the ranch dressing. Even mixing it with something with some salsa to make it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
again, we've learned and adapted, and I guess the other thing too is just giving ourselves grace that we could beat ourselves up for eating these things or buying
Yeah.
these things, and but at the end of the day, it's what did we learn? How do we move forward?
Well, and I think part of it too wasn't letting it go entirely. Some of it was, how can we make that ourselves, and knowing the ingredients that are going into it, and still have a similar flavor profile.
Well, and
It's
sometimes
not
I
gonna be
think we actually made it
exact,
better.
but yeah. Like we make our own barbecue sauce now. We know what's in it versus, because if you read ingredients and things, it can be quite frightening what's in there.
And we're
Some Frankenfoods.
we've always been careful recently with in terms of carbohydrates, in terms of breads and things.
I was going to say, the sourdough. Sourdough's been a big thing the last few years.
And so you really took that on, and we have sourdough bread, we have sourdough pancakes, we have sourdough
cookies,
brownies,
scones, brownies. I love sourdough brownies.
Yeah, well, we're not having those anymore, but anyway.
Well, one day.
So it became something that, again, learning from it, creating it, and then using it in the house. And I think that's another thing too, is as we learn things, we go, how can we use this?
Yes.
And are we using it to its best ability, or does it also have other things that can help with or do? It's like even, when, we keep the bones from our meat, and you do bone broth.
Yeah.
And so we have our own bone broth that's used for base for so many things that we cook here.
Yeah.
Which again, that is something, it takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of effort, but I believe that the results are worth it.
Yeah.
Not just because of it tastes good.
Yes. Food is our medicine, essentially, and so that's really how I look at it. And this is a long-term thing. These little extra efforts will have long-term benefits.
Yeah, and go the other way too. I mean, we can consume things slowly over time that have a bad effect on
Yeah,
us long
absolutely.
term. And I question, are some of those going to show up later in my life or not?
Yeah.
And I think we're doing so much. I don't feel it's overwhelming, but we've changed how we live our daily lives tremendously over time. We didn't just wake up one day and change.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing for people to understand is that all these things we're talking about is not something we decided one night on a Sunday conversation and then the next day we did it. This is over 20-something years. And we've learned and we've made mistakes, but we're continuing learning. I believe that we'll always make changes. What's that?
What was the mistake?
Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then in the same vein is our fruits and vegetable, getting from a farmer's market.
That's been a long time. Yeah.
I mean, we would love to have our own ability to grow more. And we've always looked at that, and we're going to keep looking at that and how we can achieve some of that. We're limited in terms of horizontal space, but maybe there's ways we can look at it vertically, and just what are the systems. I mean, I was looking at the hydroponic and all those various systems, and I still want to figure that out. But again, how do we produce something our own? Both, also, I mean, there's the nutrition part of it, but there's also the availability. I mean, we went through that during COVID where things were not available, and people realized, oh no, our food sources are going to be cut. And
But I mean, that was the nice thing about knowing the farmers. They would text me, say, I'm going to be at this parking lot at such and such time, at such and such day. So that's the one benefit, again, of eating locally, and knowing the farmers personally. That was a huge advantage to us, especially at that time.
And then, and then being where we are geographically, we have friends and neighbors, fruit trees and other products. They share, and we share back, and so that's always good too. I mean, I've always liked that opportunity to, share with our neighbors, and also, I think it builds community. As part of, and food is definitely a community.
100%.
And so it's really nice to be able to share those products with them, and then vice versa. And then, we learn from our neighbors and, growing these things and have conversation. So again, there's that opportunity both in how we source our food and how we create it or grow it ourselves, and having those conversations with people in our community and learn what they've done, and also, where they've had challenges, and, I don't want to make the same mistakes as someone else if I can avoid it. And, or minimize the challenge. And if I can get to a better product quicker because they were able to teach me, I still believe there's value in making the mistakes because that's where we really learn. But again, how does that keep going? The one thing I want to jump back at real quick is also just a topic as we were talking about personal hygiene. The one we didn't talk about was sunscreen. And
you and I differ a little bit.
Oh, we do, and we do, and unfortunately, I have a little bit of PTSD with it. I've had the wonderful Caucasian, very white skinned male, and so I'm very sensitive to the sun over my lifetime. And first of all, I wasn't probably good at sunscreen. I actually know I wasn't good at sunscreen growing up. There was no such thing as it. You didn't even know what it was. And then going through, I'll just call the last 10-year window.
10 year, okay.
Yeah. And from all the mountain biking, and, I would have both the lotion and the spray. And again, I'm not putting it out there as a must or absolutely happen, but there's part of me wonders, again, what was that product doing to me? And so even the sunscreen I do use now, I'm careful about it.
Yes.
And I look at the products, I'm paying attention to it.
It's more of a mineral based.
Yeah, and again, I'm having to order it, and it's not on the shelves at Target, unfortunately, like everyone wants, but it's available. And again, there's nothing to prove that I can prove that this is why I got what I got on my skin. I mean, even my ear, the back of my ear before, I just wonder.
I know. I've always thought that. I never wanted to say it out loud, but Yeah, it's essentially just chemicals, putting on your skin and
And I know
for a
there's a
long
lot of
period of
schools of
time.
different schools of thought out
Yeah.
there with this, and I don't want to,
hmm
it
But
can
I
be a
think
little
I
bit of
even,
controversy, but
yeah, but I
you know,
even think the foods that we eat, when it's our bodies become little petri dishes, and so when the sun hits our bodies, if you have eat a lot of PUFAs or polyunsaturated fats, you're essentially like cooking the inside with toxicity when the sun hits you. And so I think your body and your responds to the sun differently based on the foods that you eat. And that can be positive or a negative response.
yeah,
So it all plays together.
absolutely,
Yeah. You can't separate one without the other.
no,
You know what I mean? You can't have one without the other. So, but yeah, there's ways to eradicate that negative impact on our body by what we eat. And so sunscreen can be a part of that, but it's not going to be everything.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tough subject because the sun unfortunately is getting stronger,
Mm-hmm.
every day, and we just have to look at it. And again, I think
Mm-hmm.
this is a personal review because you
Mm-hmm.
have to look at it in terms of you as a person,
Mm-hmm.
your skin type,
Yeah.
your nationality, your family history, go on, that
Yeah.
that can play effect, play
Yeah.
some effect,
Yeah.
play into that.
Mm-hmm.
And you just need to look at all those things.
Yeah. I bet, but we do need sun.
We
We
do.
need to have our skin,
Yes.
bare skin, touch this, have the sun touch it.
Yeah.
And that is important for our vitamin D levels. And,
Right.
we can't always walk around with sunscreen blocking out the sun, thinking everything about it's bad because, there really is no life without the sun. And that includes for ourselves as well.
Yeah, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
limiting the exposure,
Yes.
the amount of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's exposure is positive. It's
Mm-hmm.
the amount of it
Mm-hmm.
that we have to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, various individuals can have more exposure than others.
Yes.
2 minutes or 3 hours.
Yeah,
And so I
absolutely.
think it really have to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So back to where we were on the
Mm-hmm.
food side, fruits and vegetables, we really pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to.
And seasonal, eating seasonally.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. There's a reason why we're in winter and oranges are available because that's what we need. It's cold and flu season. So we need that extra vitamin C versus in the summertime. Now you have cucumbers and watermelon because it's hot.
Hydration.
It's hydration for our body. Yeah. So paying attention to what season, because where we live, again, everything's available to us all the time, but that doesn't necessarily we're getting the most out of it. And then if you read an apple or mostly like a bell pepper, bell pepper is like, oh, it's all the way from Israel. Is that really going to have the biggest impact on our bodies positively because it's traveled such a long way? And how do they, what do they use to preserve it as it travels to, so really thinking those things in mind too. So getting the highest nutrient content that we can from our food by using seasonally and going to shopping the farmer's market helps with that.
Yeah, because you understand
And in your
where that
region.
food's
Mm-hmm.
specifically coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And you've, over the years, have gained a relationship with these individuals. So you have conversations, and again, you get to learn more about their operation and
Mm-hmm.
even their own challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Because they definitely have challenges
Mm-hmm.
trying to produce that.
Yeah.
And
they have demand. There are those people that want cucumbers in winter. And as that's your business, how can I produce cucumbers in winter? Maybe it's a greenhouse or maybe it's, so yeah, trying to run your business. That's essentially, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Sticking in that, more about nutrients is also water.
Mm.
And, we talked about fluoride
Mm-hmm.
a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and we were grateful enough to be able to get a reverse osmosis system
Mm-hmm.
a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many filters are under there.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few.
As many as I can get.
As many as Steve can get. And then, but understanding that we're stripping away a lot and that we need to bring stuff back.
Yes.
And that's why
Yeah.
we're pretty active in electrolytes, using electrolytes. Because,
Electrolytes, Celtic sea salt, remineralizing.
right.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a fix all. You still have to pay attention and look at that. And I'm glad that we have that opportunity to use that because, again, we don't know everything that's in our water.
Yeah.
We have no control. And I don't even think there's a way that we could see on anywhere what is actually put in our water.
Yeah. Well, you can to a certain extent online, but yeah, now not everyone's using chlorine. Now there's is it chloride or chloramine or something like that. So if you use a filter to filter out chlorine, it won't filter out the chloramine. So now you have to separate this filter. So you need to know what's in your water so you can get the filter that you need to get rid of it, essentially. But yeah, I mean, there's lead, asbestos. It's nasty stuff. We're putting again on our skin, on our kids' skin. And just in our bodies. And I just don't think there's as much awareness of that out there.
And water is something we should be consuming all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, hydrating our bodies.
Yes.
And again, that's something I was not good at. And over time, I've learned and gotten better. I think the biggest aha moment for me was when I started using the sauna and that I needed to hydrate.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the first or second times I used a sauna in the recent times, and I felt horrible afterwards.
Because you were so dehydrated. Yeah.
I had a headache and, on and on and on. And so I realized, okay, that's not right. And that's because of what you did, not because of what the sauna did.
Yes.
And that's when I found also not only about, why I should hydrate, but also using electrolytes to help even more in the value of those. And, finding, again, a product that's not sugars and things like that in it. We really paid attention and we, went with Element because we felt at the time and still do, it's one of the better products because of what they put in it. And so those two things, and so that really put in for me is I need to hydrate, and I can tell quite a bit of difference, really hydrating myself on a daily basis. I feel like it affects my joints, and my joints are way better. It affects my skin, and just a bunch of different things.
Yeah, your sleep.
Our sleep,
everything,
I think, our digestive system. And so I think that's something that we all tend to kind of put on the side, and it's really important.
Absolutely.
And then with that, we even tried something new at the beginning of the year. We got the hydrogen water bottles.
I'll let you talk about that. I still don't know.
Well, I mean, basically we're adding hydrogen, increasing the hydrogen in the water, which has a few things of benefits. Anti-inflammatory.
Okay. I heard anti-aging, and so I guess it signed me up.
Anyway, anti-inflammatory, I mean, we're all trying to reduce inflammation.
Yeah.
And so anything we can do, and it's our foods too. I mean, everything we talked about today, all those foods and why we're sourcing those, they minimize our inflammation. And wow, what a difference.
Yeah. Which is our body's response to something isn't right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so putting the hydrogen-infused waters, again, helps with inflammation. It's an antioxidant. It helps with our skin, in anti-aging. There's also an increase in our immune system, help with that. And I think there's a few other things. But again, if we're going to consume water and we can do a little bit, something just to increase it a little bit, why not?
Yeah.
The other one that I want to bring up, it helps us absorb our nutrients.
That's right.
Better.
Yeah.
And so I use it quite a bit with especially when I'm taking my supplements, and I'm making sure I'm drinking it with that. And then, even my AG1 that I take daily, Athletic Greens, I typically now I'm using the hydrogen water with that so that I'm absorbing those minerals and nutrients better.
Nice.
And so again, we're I don't know exactly how it's changed for us, but we're really in a small window right now in terms of using it. Since the beginning of the
Oh,
year.
the hydrogen water. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we don't.
I mean, yeah, it's
Really.
been maybe a month, if that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
And I do feel more hydrated with
Mm-hmm,
it.
mm-hmm.
I know that I go to the bathroom a lot more with it. I don't know what it is, but that hydrogen makes me go to the bathroom a lot. It's kind of annoying sometimes. That's one of the most frustrating things with me about hydrating is you got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that,
Yeah.
I would be all in. It's not, if you're home, it's fine, but it's when you got to get in the car or you're traveling and things like that. And it's like, the bathroom's not always there.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit challenging there.
Yeah. Well, try being a girl.
Well. And then I think, unless you have another thought, one of the other things that we're looking at also is our, we're talking about consumables right now, is our clothing.
Yes.
And, I have this, whatever you want to call it, vision or whatever, is that I want to look at clothes and buy certain things that are going to last, that are timeless in terms of fashion. And if I can, made in USA.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is just
natural fibers.
Natural
and
fibers.
That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Like the quality over quantity.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, I reduced my closet quite a bit beginning of the year for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One, because
because he has shirts in there from college.
Well, but even that, gratefully I lost a ton of weight and those clothes don't fit anymore. So it was easy to remove them.
Yeah.
Even though I was kind of nervous too, because what happens when I gain all my weight back?
Yes. That's another show.
Right. But, I see myself really, again, tightening that window up even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just getting, some really key pieces that, again, are timeless in fashion, made in the USA, and are going to last.
Yeah.
Shoes are tough because of.
Yeah.
Again, there's people making shoes in the USA. And so there is people out there that are looking at that, especially like Josh. Someone like Josh, he's looking at that. And so there's still that available to us. The challenge with all of that, especially when we say made in the USA, is the price point goes up.
Ratchets up. But I mean, if you consider.
But my point is that I'm going to buy less.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be consuming annually or monthly or whatever that looks like in terms of clothing, that it's okay to spend a little bit more.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, it might end up being a wash. I mean, no pun intended, but
I actually think it'll be less.
Yeah, it could be. I'd be curious to see. Yeah.
I mean, there are certain...
Not that we're big consumers.
Right. There are things that are hard in that space to really look at something that's going to last.
Yes.
But you can pay attention.
You can pay attention.
And really look at... And
I think that's just what it is paying attention.
Yeah, having awareness, willing to look at options, and not just take the first thing that you see on the screen.
Yes.
And even that, sometimes those are good cues for us. Advertising, it could be, the black empire, the dark empire, but also I think it also tells us, hey, there's these products, and you go, I do consume those products, that type of product, whatever that is. Is there other things out there that I could be looking at? And so it does kind of goose us a little bit to look and cue us a little to see, are there options?
Yeah. Or even at the same time, how bad do I really need that? Is it worth my time, my efforts, my resources to put into this? You know what I mean? I think it's that too.
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't have all the time in the world to look up everything. And
so, how bad do I need this? Is another question to ask. But yeah.
So in summary, we've really, as a household, have paid attention to what comes in our house and how we live with, lower toxicity. We did talk about air quality a little bit. That's another important subject. And
EMF. A whole fun thing.
EMFs, yeah. Well, yeah, let's talk about it real quick.
Yeah.
So in terms of air quality, we like to have plants in our house to help reduce and increase purify our air, and they look good too.
They look good.
So there's nothing wrong with a little green in your house, to say the least.
Yeah.
And then you talk about EMFs. That was a big one for me when I got diagnosed. That I just felt like the world just like it's almost like this giant neon sign, like the it's like that Seinfeld with Kramer,
Yes.
right?
The chicken.
Yeah, and that red glow. I felt like the world was that red glow.
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
And it really it scared me. And I was on that big rampage, and some people know I wear a medallion, an EMF medallion, a block EMFs
on your phone.
I have a blocker on my phone. I had one on when I wore the watch. I had one there, and I'd like to get other EMF blockers for our house. But again, it's a financial thing.
Yeah.
It's affordability,
Yes.
and I got these products from Germany because again, looking at what it does, and again, word of mouth and hearing from others and understanding the product, because it's, again, in some way you're buying this product and you have no idea what it does.
Yeah.
And so you have to discern and look at who's buying it and have a better understanding, and hopefully someone smarter than me, because I'm not the smartest one. And I always tell people, if I am the smartest one in the room, I am absolutely scared and want to leave. Like I'm pulling my chute, and it just won't go. But yeah, there's a lot more smarter people out there that can help us with that. And I think that's the other thing too, is encourage people to seek those smart people and understand what they know. There's some amazing scientists and biologists out there all over.
Homeschool moms.
Social media that have done research and understand the information and can help break it down into a much more consumable understanding. I think that's what's just pretty amazing out there, is that we can be negative about the access to information, or we can, take a positive spin on it. And I'm just grateful, again, that there's smart people out there willing to share their information.
Yeah.
And I think
it's just well researched. I don't think you have to be smart.
Right.
It's just you've put in the time and exhausted your resources, whatever, in a certain subject.
Well, and then you look at these people too, are you just saying this stuff to put money in your pockets, or is this something you really believe in and it's your lifestyle?
Yes.
And again, that's why I want to share.
And I think you can tell the person who believes in it and someone who's just making money from it. Sometimes. Most of the time. Yeah.
But again, I think, for me, it's, how do we look at this stuff? What does it mean? And, they've made mistakes too. And they've shared them. And then I think that's another important thing to share, is that
the smart people.
Yeah. And again, vulnerability, and I think that's important too, especially in this world where we just think what we're doing is always right. And for me, this podcast, this platform, is to bring these smart people to the table that can share with others.
You saying I'm a smart person?
Yeah, I think so, in an indirect way.
I have a history.
Yeah. No, you've taught me a lot over the years, and I want to thank you for that, because I probably haven't thanked you enough. But I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you've been an amazing partner in this. We've learned a lot, and I'm excited to keep learning. And there's one thing I can say, and it's, again, I wasn't like this maybe 2 years ago, but I look forward to aging because I have a path now. I have a vision of what that looks like. And that's important. And I think it's important for others to get their, create their own vision and what that looks like. And I encourage others to find their vision, find it, and then try to figure it out. Yeah. And at least you have a path to move forward with. And, are you going to make mistakes? Yes. Are you going to fail? Yes. But you still have that vision. You can still move forward. Yeah. I think that's really important. Yeah.
I thought of the word for Veda, the land that they're on, conserved or preserved open space.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Mm-hmm.
Take care. I look forward to this ride and encourage you to come along. Hold on.